In January of 1984, the DC character Swamp Thing was reinvented. The book had been handed over to Alan Moore due to low sales, and he was given free rein with the book. This series, titled Saga of the Swamp Thing, would last until 1987, coming to an end with issue number 64. Alan Moore would eventually go on to write the critically acclaimed Watchmen, and Swamp Thing would be handed over to the series penciler Rick Veitch. In my experience, this run by Moore is the most fondly remembered run for the character, and it's not hard to see why. Moore's reinvention was great, turning the Swamp Thing from a man-made to a monster into a swamp elemental going on a journey of self-discovery, creating interesting takes on classic horror monsters like ghosts, zombies, and vampires, and a grand epic that featured the Swamp Thing fighting alongside supernatural DC heroes in a fight for the universe. It was fantastic stuff, but that isn't to say it wasn't without its faults, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. Welcome to I Have Issues, a comic book show where I talk about comic book related subjects that piss me off or just upset me in general. Today we're going to be talking about one of the best comic books I've ever read and the one plot point that killed it for me. Let's dig into Saga of the Swamp Thing, Volume 5. Now to fully understand some of this, I'll need to fill you in on some of the things that came before this spot. Swamp Thing is an earth elemental and gets his powers from a force called the Green. Best way I can describe it, it's the Force from Star Wars, but with plants only. He didn't really understand what he was until a recurring DC character named John Constantine showed up and said he could explain it. Constantine then proceeded to lead Swamp Thing on a world tour that had him fighting the aforementioned classic horror monsters. This all culminated in Swamp Thing meeting the Parliament of Trees, a group of earth elementals, like himself, who gave him the basic idea of what he was before sending him on his way. Then Constantine, Swamp Thing, and a few other DC characters teamed up to fight another worldly force that I think was supposed to represent the darkness from the start of the universe, but I was never really sure. They win, save the world, everyone goes home happy. That was the good bit. The problem is in the B story. See, Swamp Thing has a girlfriend named Abigail Cable. She's been around since the start of the book and shows up every now and then to play a bit part in the story every now and then. There were times where stuff from her regular life factored into the story. Hell, the first half of Volume 2 was all about her and it was fine. But after that, she only really mattered because of her relationship to Swamp Thing. The B story focuses on her. While Swamp Thing was off fighting for the fate of life itself, Abby was having some serious problems. A photographer had been snooping around their swamp one day, found Swamp Thing and Abby together, and took pictures of them. I think they were having sex. The comic implies that, but I was never really sure. To me, it just kind of looked like they were making out. Anyway, he takes the pictures to a local paper, and they get printed, causing Abby to get arrested as a sex offender, lose her job, and receive letter after letter berating and shaming her. So ignoring the public shaming and libel suit Abby needs to file against that paper and that photographer, why was she arrested as a sex offender? I'm not entirely sure what crime she even committed. Are there laws against sleeping with a plant monster? I can't imagine there are, since Swamp Thing is pretty private about his life and not many people know about him. So it's two beings having consensual sex in the privacy of their own home, with no real laws on the books to explain how a crime was committed. So why was she arrested? Then there's the whole photography thing. Abby has a right to privacy, and the right to sue the photographer and the paper that published those photos for defamation of character. Yes, the photos are apparently incriminating, but that doesn't give them the right to publish them without her knowledge, or her consent, or without at least informing the police beforehand. But that's never actually brought up in the story. The pictures go out, Abby's reputation is ruined, and things get worse. Unable to face everyone, it's a small town, so most people know each other, Abby flees to Gotham and gets caught, this time for a relationship with Swamp Thing and for leaving town while on probation. It's about this time Swamp Thing returns and the other shoe drops. While in Abby's apartment, he finds letters people sent her and freaks out. He uses his powers to race to Gotham and finds her in a courthouse about to face trial for running while on probation. With Abby's help, he breaks up through the floor and tells people that he'll hold the city hostage until her charges are dropped. So Swamp Thing takes over Gotham and turns it into a jungle. He's basically become the villain of the story. Batman tries to reason with him, the citizens try to burn back the foliage, and pretty much everything else they can think of, but Swamp Thing is too powerful for normal people to deal with. Which is a little weird now that I think about it. Why is Batman the only one helping? Superman can't lend a hand, or Wonder Woman. The Flash, he could run around and maybe cut a bunch of the plants down at once, or Firestorm could come in and burn all of them. I don't know, it seems like they could do something more than just sending in the one superhero without superpowers. I know it's his city, but someone else could help. No one? No one at all. Well, moving on then. After exhausting all of their options, Batman actually says the freaking obvious. If Swamp Thing and Abby were breaking the law by being together, are they going to go arrest all the other non-human heroes for their relationships? This somehow gets people to stop being stupid, and they agree to drop the charges. That's all it took? All that crap about Abby being publicly shamed and being arrested, Swamp Thing turning evil, which made no sense, Gotham being turned into a jungle, and all it took was for them to realize, oh, I'd have to go arrest Superman's girlfriend now? Well, I obviously can't do that now, can I? What the hell? And here's where all of this comes to a head. Some people who are hunting Swamp Thing see the news of what he did to Gotham. They come up with the plan to kill him, hiring Lex Luthor to help them do it, and wait on a ledge near the courthouse to snipe Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing goes to meet Abby in front of the court, and he gets shot in the back of the head. The thing that shot him proceeds to burn his body, and Swamp Thing discovers he can't leave his burning body. Remember the green? Well, it turns out that Swamp Thing can craft himself a new body from the surrounding vegetation anytime the one he's currently using is damaged beyond repair, kind of like what's happening right now. Well, it turns out the thing that shot him disrupted his connection to it. Swamp Thing can't jump out of this body. He decides to try jumping anyway, and leaves the burning remains in the middle of the road. This puts him in space. I am not kidding. Swamp Thing is in space, jumping from planet to planet, trying to find his way back to Earth. And explaining all of that would make this twice as long. But here's my problem. The space stuff for Swamp Thing is actually really cool. You get to see him try out all of this new stuff with different flora, experimenting with new bodies and abilities he couldn't have on Earth, and seeing new worlds as he tries to get home, which he eventually does. But it had the stupidest possible setup that it made me put the book down. Abby could have absolutely sued that paper and photographer, like I've said how many times now. And if she had, she'd have probably won. They had no right to publish it, and the photographer was breaking the law when he took those photos without their knowledge. And Swamp Thing turning evil felt just as wrong. He just went on this huge adventure about self-discovery, good and evil, and what it means to be what he is. And he ended up saving the world, saving the universe. But no, he turns evil at the drop of a hat. Now, those who've read Saga of the Swamp Thing might point out that he did kill a man once, when he found out that he wasn't human, turned plant monster in Volume 1 of this story. I would say give that a pass. How would you feel if you were shot in the head, cut open, dissected, and experimented on, and then when you finally wake up, you find out your entire existence has been a lie? There is no way he was in the right mindset at that point. Here, Swamp Thing is shown to be self-aware. He's thinking and planning this stuff out. This isn't a moment of confusion or passion like before. He's just evil right now. So we have a bunch of people doing stupid stuff that sets up the entire last third of the book, and that's why I put it down. It was too much dumb to handle, and I didn't want to put up with it anymore. I wish more hadn't gone this route. Hell, you could do the same idea, Swamp Thing in space, and take out all of that drama, and not lose a thing. Maybe you could have had Swamp Thing's enemies hear strange news stories from all over the country about the weird plant creature that kept showing up to fight monsters, which then prompts the citizens of Swamp Thing's hometown to share their stories with the media. This gives the bad guys hunting ground that they then track Swamp Thing in and assassinate him, which leads to him being in space. You get the same result, but you don't bring in meaningless plot points. To my knowledge, the stuff with Abby never comes up again. The photos, her being arrested, and Swamp Thing turning evil are all dropped and forgotten for Swamp Thing in space. And like I said, the stuff with Swamp Thing in space was really good, but it could have been great. If only we hadn't gotten there in such a stupid, stupid way. Guys, thank you for watching the first episode of I Have Issues. I'm going to try and get 1 or 2 of these up a month. Depends on my work schedule, so I'll let you know. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.